Father controlled and manipulated my whole life, so I'm finally leaving. I, 20, have only ever had my father as a solid parental figure in my life, or as solid as it could get throughout. He and my mother, who I've never met before, separated when I was too young to remember her and apparently officially divorced in 2012. She has had zero contact with me and my dad has not told me anything about her at all, even if I asked when I was younger. He, with the help of my grandparents, paternal, raised me entirely. Throughout my life he was always up and down. When I was a young child he didn't treat me poorly from what I can remember but left to work abroad for over a year without me, and also uprooted my whole life several times because of anything that was happening for him personally. It ranged from moving me from my hometown so we could live with his girlfriend who I'd never met before, to fully moving me from one country to another no matter how much I protested and cried because he knew what was best and he was getting a promotion. This continued for years. Many women entered and left my life and I've lived in many apartments, none of which I ever got used to enough to call home. Back then it felt like regularity, but looking back now it caused me so much stress and emotional imbalance from how turbulent it all was. In the last couple of years he expanded his poor treatment of me into other areas of our lives. Getting mad at me for missing several calls turned into insulting me and calling me names over not responding to his messages immediately. Being rarely frustrated turned into being always angry about the smallest mistakes or actions of mine. I folded a towel wrong meant a 15-minute anger fit. Not washing the dishes meant a series of insults to me and my character. Coming home 15 minutes late meant the silent treatment for hours. And even in the meantime he would love bomb me when he could, manipulating me into thinking his bad side wasn't actually that bad because he was otherwise a good parent. I am embarrassed to say it worked. Jump to the present. I'm currently sitting on the floor at my girlfriend's house overthinking my plan for tomorrow. Me, her and her sister will be going to my house, packing a suitcase or two of the things I cannot part with, and I'm moving in with her, parting ways with my dad for good. That's been the idea since 2 days ago, and it solidified an hour ago. He spam called me, and when I didn't pick up he called me a useless, embarrassing creature, amongst other equally hurtful things. For context, the reason he got angry and called me was because I didn't respond to his message. It's time his actions got their consequences. Let's see if he's so arrogant and self-assured when he loses the only child he's ever had. Update: Father controlled and manipulated my whole life, so I'm finally leaving. Hello Reddit, it's been a couple months. First of all I want to thank everyone who commented on my last post with advice, and those who showed support in my decision. You were all very helpful and I believe I would have chickened out if my suspicions of the poor treatment weren't confirmed by so many of you. A lot of you also asked for an update, and I think it's time I give one. First, for context for anyone who didn't read my last post, I, 20, left my home silently 2 months ago with bare essentials because I was getting emotionally and mentally abused and manipulated by my father. My initial plan had been to stick around for at least another year, but it had gotten to the point where I was forced to, with the help of my best friend and my girlfriend, use the time where he was not in the country to pack myself into a couple suitcases and a few bags and move in with my GF and her family. As for right now, things are difficult to say the least. I am a million times better off in this house where everyone accepts me for who I am as a person, including my ADHD and autism, and where I can set my own boundaries. I would be lying, though, if I said I don't miss anything about my life before at all. Here are some of the things that have been especially difficult for me to adapt to / forget. 1. I have financially dropped many classes, for a lack of a better word. My father was well off because of his work, and he didn't give me much of his wealth as he expected me to earn my own money, but I was living a comfortable life where making certain payments, buying food, or treating myself was never a matter of worry. Now that I live away and without his financial help, in a household of 6 where I need to contribute, I find myself counting pennies. Don't get me wrong, I expected this and how hard it was going to be, but I have the right to struggle with accepting and adapting to it. 2. The house is loud and I never have alone time. As someone who's ADHD, having quiet time and some alone time with my own thoughts or to simply rest is important, especially when processing heavy trauma such as has been this entire endeavor. Although my old house had 4 people in it, my father, his wife and her daughter, almost no one was ever home due to work, social life, etc. In this house of 6 people, GF, her mother, her sibling, her little brother, and their cousin, somebody is always at home. In the last 2 months, there have only been 2 instances in which I have been left in the house by myself, and it was only for a few hours. I have no issue with this, truly, and I most often appreciate the company. The only issue arises when I'm feeling mentally poorly, having a bad day, and need the silence and emptiness to process, but cannot. Even then, I obviously don't bring it up, as that's a personal thing. If I really need the space, I take a long walk outside. 3. My GF's little brother. I love him dearly, he's a sweetheart, but he's heavily on the autistic spectrum, much more than me. He's nonverbal, has no boundaries, and always causes a lot of ruckus around the house either with his phone or just by being hyper. Again, 99% of the time I have no issue with him. He's kind and often gentle, and he's actually improving on his communication skills quite quickly and especially recently. He's just difficult to deal with sometimes if everyone in the house is stressed out, tired, or even when he's just being way too loud and causing too much noise. He has a lot of sensory needs and needs a lot of special treatment, as well as a very specific schedule to function and avoid meltdowns. It's not a big disruption to my life at all, just a factor to adapt to a little suddenly that I'm struggling with. 4. Leaving my job and relying on people. As mentioned before, ADHD makes this whole change very difficult and, unfortunately, I had to quit my decently paying job for the sake of my mental health. I was only working part-time, but the line of work which I was in is extremely emotionally and mentally exhausting and time-consuming, and it was making the transition of my life horrendously more difficult to cope with. So I left. This has meant that, even though I've had the luck to save up some money to buy food and other essentials for myself as need be, I've had to rely on either my GF or my 2 best friends quite a bit. Being someone who, through my entire life, has helped other people financially because I've been stable, I have found it particularly hard to ask for help when I need it, and accepting it when it's been given to me. It comes with a lot of guilt and a feeling as though I've become a burden to the household, even though while I was working I was contributing 1/3 of my paycheck to rent, bills, food, etc. I'm looking for work semi-actively right now, but I've so far been encouraged by the close people in my life to take it easy and take as much time off as I need to get a footing so that I don't end up burning out. 5. Dropping out of uni. One of the biggest issues I had at home was that I was forced to continue my academics after high school. Now, I have always believed that university is good if you have a path you wish to follow and are sure about it. For those of us, though, who don't know what they want to do with their life, uni just becomes a stress factor where you aren't fighting for your own education, but for the satisfaction of someone else. Whether we're pleasing parents, which I was attempting to do because my father would tell me I owed it to him for how much he paid and sacrificed for my education, society, or someone else, it's one of those things that will eventually burn you out and make you lose sense of what you actually wish to do. One of the first things I did when I left was to drop out of uni. I am happy I am no longer forced to learn things I hate and to adapt to a pressuring routine on top of working, but hearing all my friends go to uni and some of the judgment from them has made me doubt my choice. The transition itself from suddenly not having anything to learn has, too, been a difficult thing to start adjusting to. 6. I miss my dad. No, I don't mean the entitled piece of SH that I ran away from who abused me for years and destroyed my self-esteem, my dreams, and my sense of sense. I mean the man who, when I was little, would bring me back gifts after every long-distance work trip and hug me for hours because I missed him. I mean the man who, if I came back from school upset, would take me to my favorite restaurant so I would have my favorite meal and would then let me stay up a little later, watching my comfort movie with me. I mean the man who took me on several holiday trips when he could and let me explore the world as much as I could even while I was young. The man who told me he was proud of me when I won an art competition or when I got an amazing result on a test. The man who said, "loves ya," instead of, "I love you," because I said it once as a kid. The man who made funny faces every time I filmed him for anything because he knew I found it funny. I miss my dad, and it's hurting and difficult to forget that the reason I left was because that man no longer existed, and hadn't for a very long time. All of that being said though, I'm happy that I left when I did. My life was getting to a point where my entire existence was controlled by my dad and his moods. How my day ended depended of whether, when I came home, he would say, "Welcome back," or "Where the hell have you been?" said in simple terms. I couldn't dress and be myself because he always had an issue with me being LGBTQ+, in sexuality and gender terms, and he'd never call me by my preferred name to demean my existence. His treatment to me depended a lot on my grades in school and in uni, and not my personality, my treatment of other people, my way of expression, and other things he should have been actually paying attention to. Every little mistake I made was being blown out of proportion. I was simply unhappy. I was being mistreated. Here, I am myself. I am treated right. I am greeted with a smile and a hug when I am home. I am asked about my day and what I am doing. No one cares that I am no longer in uni, and I always get asked if my recent hobby project went well and if I was happy with it. People here are proud of me, respect me, and my boundaries. For any kid out there struggling with narcissistic, entitled parents abusing them in whatever way, I encourage you to find a way out. Of course, stories are different and always complex, but the truth of the matter is that if you're being mistreated and suppressed as a human, you deserve better. Whether for you that means cutting contact completely and starting a new life, or simply moving away and keeping low contact, it doesn't matter. Taking the step in parting ways with the toxicity in your life helps you in the long run. And if someone tells you, you're just taking the easy way out, and you don't care about the consequences, leaving isn't the easy way out. It's one of the hardest, most complicated ways of leaving that does cause a lot of consequences you will struggle with. But you will start feeling better. You will have the chance to live life in your own terms and build yourself up again without the looming presence of disappointment and pain from those who were meant to protect you from it. You've got it.